Now, the most watched news in the Panhandle. News Channel 10, News at 10.
No, we don't have a criminal justice system in Texas.
And we try very diligently, and I think the law enforcement does too, to get it right.
Action by the Attorney General of New Mexico prompts a local discussion about what's right and wrong with the criminal justice system in Texas. An in-depth look at exoneration in our top story.
New efforts are underway aimed at addressing challenges to homicide and sexual assault convictions.
The New Mexico Attorney General's office has announced the Just Conviction and Exoneration Unit to look at cases where DNA evidence could possibly overturn convictions for violent crimes. We spoke with the Director of Communications at the Attorney General's office about these steps by Gary King.
He wants to make sure that the cause of justice in New Mexico is served by solidifying the convictions, the just convictions of the guilty folks, but at the same time helping to free the innocent in cases where perhaps they were convicted mistakenly. In other words, they're innocent. And this will serve both of those purposes.
Cisneros says there are around 10 cases pending across the state that are seeking to use new DNA technology.
According to a local criminal defense attorney, there have been 47 exonerations in Texas so far this year. News Channel 10's Emily Griffin joins us now live in the News Center to tell us more about how they're handled in our home state.
Stacey, you said 47 exonerations. That means nearly 50 innocent people were wrongfully convicted before being set free. Some attorneys say they're doing the best they can, but to critics, it's just one more gaping hole in the criminal justice system.
Well, no, we don't have a criminal justice system in Texas. We have 254 criminal justice systems, because that's how many counties we have.
In the state of Texas, wrongful convictions or exonerations aren't overseen by the Attorney General's office. Instead, district attorneys are left to police themselves.
I can't speak for other jurisdictions, but I can sure speak for Amarillo, and we try very diligently, and I think the law enforcement does too, to get it right. When done right, the criminal justice system is a check and balance all the way through.
But with no larger agency overseeing those efforts, critics say the system is faulty.
So we don't have anything even remotely close to a fair system with real checks and real balances in it. We've got at least 75 to 100 cases that I know if we had the resources and the time and the energy, we could get these guys out.
Sims says even without a larger exoneration unit, they're doing their job right.
We can't think of a single case where someone's been exonerated because of actual innocence.
But folks like Blackburn say there's an even larger problem at stake.
The point is not really which individual criminal defendant you can help. The point is, how about all the rest of us? Because the truth is that when you have a non-functioning criminal justice system, because it frames people, because it wrongfully convicts people, then that hurts everybody.
Sims also says if there's ever any question about a case or possible wrongful conviction, he himself and his office will investigate to make sure the conviction is just. Live in the News Center, Emily Griffin, News Channel 10.
Based on a report released back in May, 87 people have been exonerated in Texas since 1989. 30 of those were from cases other than DNA testing. Just last year, a man in Williamson County was released after spending 25 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. Michael Morton was convicted in 1987 of murdering his wife, but was released in October of last year after DNA evidence linked the murder to another man.
Another notorious exoneration in the state was that of Texas Tech student and U.S. Army veteran Timothy Cole. Cole was wrongfully convicted of raping a fellow student in 1985. Another man confessed to the crime 10 years later, but before an investigation had been completed, Cole died in prison. In 2009, a Texas district judge reversed the conviction, giving him the first posthumous DNA exoneration in Texas history.
A man from our area continues sitting on death row, hoping for DNA evidence to exonerate him as well. Hank Skinner was convicted of the 1993 murders of Twyla Busby and her two sons in Pampa. After years of being rejected by the state of Texas, DNA testing was approved this summer for evidence in his case. The lawyers contend the DNA analysis of that evidence will prove his innocence.
The man who is often at the center of the battle over DNA testing is Governor Rick Perry. Perry maintains the state is working to use the testing to make sure there are enough safeguards to ensure the integrity of Texas's criminal justice system. He goes on to say, quote, "Our system works very well, and for Washington to step in and tell us whether it is right to execute a heinous criminal is the height of arrogance and disregards federalism at its most basic level," end quote.
We are just a few hours away from a front that will bring us the coldest air we've seen this season.
Here with this latest on the cool down is Chief Meteorologist Doppler Dave Oliver in the Storm Track Center. Good evening, Dave.
Well, good evening, and that cool down is coming on the heels of some record heat, so that's going to make a very stark contrast to what we've had here the last couple days. Let's go to the map right now, and you can already see the tremendous range in temperatures here from 70s in our area. Right now we're 72 in Amarillo. Denver is 32. So that's a nice little 40-degree plunge on just a couple of 100 miles. And as we zoom out, we can kind of put the cold front right about in here, cutting across Colorado. That'll be here the next several hours. It will start to move into the northern part of the area. Should be moving through the southern part of the area tomorrow morning. Now, right behind it, winds will kick out at the north. Those are going to gust over 30. And in the morning, we'll have temperatures pretty close to 40 degrees. So that's going to be a pretty chilly combination. You want to dress for that. As far as any precipitation, not probably for most of us, but a little disturbance still might give a snow shower in the northwest corner Friday morning. Most of us are just turning cold. And on that note, we have a freeze watch already hoisted, looks like tomorrow night and Friday night. Now we're going to see freezing temperatures across most of the area. This one ought to be a pretty hard freeze also. Details on this cold front coming up in a few minutes. Now back to news.
We'll see you then, Dave. Thank you. Customers who have prepaid for certain services are now saying they are being left high and dry after an Amarillo business suddenly closes its doors. News Channel 10's Heather Geller has more on the story.
Tropical Tans is one of the oldest shops in the Best Plaza on Western, but not anymore. Customers here have contacted us saying Saturday they were here tanning. When they came back the next day, the place was empty.
If a company is part of a chain, they can contact the headquarters to see if the company moved, or if they're going to a different location, or if there's some other way that a consumer can get reimbursed if they've spent money with that company up front.
Tropical Tans is not part of a chain, and many other customers have paid up to $100 for tanning packages that they'll now be missing out on. Keel says about the only recourse they'll have is if the company files bankruptcy. The BBB does say they will be looking into this company's current issue.
We will try to get a hold of that company and its owners to see, again, where they stand and what the next step is for these consumers who have already given some of the money for services at this particular business.
We've tried to contact the owner of Tropical Tans to find out what happened, but have been unsuccessful. Heather Geller, News Channel 10.
A fire burning in the Carson National Forest east of Taos has grown to an estimated 375 acres despite windy conditions. Officials say the so-called midnight fire near Red River had less active behavior than expected today as fuels change from mixed spruce to grass and aspen groves. A decision has been made to implement a confine and contain suppression strategy rather than attempt a direct attack and compromise firefighter safety. The midnight fire began Tuesday northeast of Red River. About 75 firefighters are battling the blaze. Dallas fire officials say an electrical short in Big Texas wiring caused the fiery demise of the towering cowboy who had been an icon of the State Fair of Texas for 60 years. Dallas Fire Rescue released the official cause of the fire, saying it was due to an unspecified electrical short. The 52-foot-tall cowboy who greeted fairgoers was destroyed by fire on Friday. After the blaze was extinguished, the tarp-covered remains were hauled from the fairgrounds on a flatbed truck in a procession resembling a funeral.
A Panhandle woman is dead. A 3-year-old remains hospitalized following a wreck in Carson County. DPS troopers say it happened yesterday afternoon near County Road O and County Road 9 around 4. They say 27-year-old Megan Green of Panhandle lost control of her vehicle and overturned it in a ditch. Both her and the 3-year-old girl were not wearing seatbelts and were ejected. The woman died later at an Amarillo hospital. The child remains in critical condition with brain trauma.
It's a group of people that can change the course of an election.
Hear from one local leader on why Hispanics may not be shaping politics as much as they could be, coming up on the News at 10 on News Channel 10.
Strong cold front bearing down on us, and we'll be feeling it in the morning. I'll have more on that up next.